Okay, so for today what we're going to do is we are going to make a robotic hand out of cardboard using some wire or string and some straws. Now, I've already made one. I'm just going to show you how this works. I've also added some advanced things here that a computer science teacher could do. We're not going to be doing those things today. This is just to show you our final product. But we are going to make the hand and we are going to make the fingers move and the fingers work. Now, I'm just going to run it from my computer. For those computer science students or the computer science teachers, what I'm doing is I'm running my cardboard robotic hand using little servos that runs through a Raspberry Pi, and I've done some programming in Python here, which I'm happy to share with you just to show you how it works. Now, what we're going to do essentially is I'm just going to run the program from my computer. Once I run the program, I press a number on my keyboard, so I might press number 1 and then press enter. And you'll see the first finger moves, okay? Or I might press 2 and then enter, my second finger will move. We can do that for all of the fingers, 3, 4, 5, or if you press number 6, then the whole hand will make a fist. Okay, so that's what we're going to be working on today. We're going to be doing that without using the computer part of it. We're just going to be using the cardboard and the string, and we're going to be making our own robotic hand in class. Okay, so you've seen the final product that we're working at. So now let's get started. The first step is to make the hand out of cardboard. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is show you the things you need to have in front of you ready to go before you get started. So let's have a look at what I've got on the table. All right, so I've laid the things out here so that you can see everything that you should need to make your hand. I'm starting off with a 30cm ruler and a marker. Doesn't matter which marker you use, just a ruler and a marker. I've also got a piece of cardboard, an A4 size piece of cardboard. Now, the best thing or the easiest thing I've found is go and get your cereal box. This is a Cocoa Pops box, piece of cardboard. It's perfect, it's the right size. If I put my hand on here, I can see that my hand will fit here quite nicely, all right? So this is the right size and it's a good thickness for what we're going to do. I also have some fishing wire. Now you can use string or you can use fishing wire, it doesn't matter. What we're going to do is we're going to cut 5 pieces of fishing wire that are exactly 30 centimeters long, all right? So that's how much you need. I got this fishing wire from my local store, but you could just use string as well. String will work perfectly well. I also have one plastic straw, which we're going to open up and we're going to cut into little sections, and we'll get to that shortly. I have a pair of scissors for doing my cutting. And in this situation, I'm using a hot glue gun, but you don't have to use a hot glue gun. You could also use some tape, some sticky tape or some Scotch tape. You could use tape if you wanted to do that, and we'll talk about that when we get to the section of taping. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my wire and I'm going to cut 5 sections of string, 30 centimeters each. So I just take my fishing wire out, rule it out, and I'm going to cut 5 of those 30 centimeters long. Okay, so I've cut my pieces of string, or in my case fishing wire, to the right length. I'm just going to put them off to the side for the moment, and now we're going to focus on our piece of cardboard. Now, we want to make a hand that's like a robotic hand, so the best thing to do is to lay your hand on the cardboard like I'm doing here, and we are going to roughly mark it with our marker, and we're going to mark the size that we want to go. Now, you could use your right hand, or you could use your left hand. It's up to you. It doesn't really matter either way. I'm going to actually use my left hand for this so that I can write with my right hand. Now, when I place my hand on the card, I'm going to make sure that my fingers are nicely spread out. So there's a good gap between my fingers so that when we cut down the middle here, that there's space for each finger, right? So doing it like this is not going to work. We want to have our fingers nicely spread out, and you want to have a little bit of your wrist. So I'm using just a little bit of my wrist here. So I'm going to draw a line a little bit longer than the length of my finger, maybe a centimetre longer than the length of my finger, centimetre longer, about a centimetre longer. It's a rough estimate. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so there's roughly where my fingers are going to go. Now I'm going to draw a line up here to say roughly where my hand is. There's a little bit of a bit that comes out like that there. And then I'm going to try and join up towards that finger. Then I'm going to draw down. Now I'm not going to go all the way into my finger. I'm just going to go, again, about 1 centimetre up from where the gap is on my finger. And I go through and I draw all of my fingers in roughly. Now remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. You could use a ruler if you wanted to use a ruler, or you could just do it the way I'm doing it, a little bit freehand. And we have a go with our hands like this, around the back, and then back down here for my wrist. Now I take it off and I have a look. And I say, gee, wow, this section here is pretty big. So I might actually cut my finger in here a little bit more for my thumb and then come down here. Now we can make those alterations. You don't have to be perfect. We can make those alterations. Now, the next step you're going to do is you're going to take your scissors. You're going to be very careful, obviously, and we are going to cut out our hand. Now, when we cut out the hand, be very careful not to bend the card. We do have to make bends in the card shortly, but to start with, all you need to do is just to cut the hand out as it is, exactly like that. So you'll see I'm cutting it out here like so. I'm making sure I've got those square ends. We're going to use those square ends when we get to adding the wire. So I'm cutting them with square fingers, not with round fingers. We're using square fingers to start with. And then we'll get to our next section. Okay, so here we have my hand cut out. I've gone through and I've cut it out, and you can see it's roughly the right shape for a hand. Now I want to have a good look at this hand, and then I want to have a look at my own hand as well. Now we see with a human hand that it has some folds in it. It's got a fold in here, a fold here, and a fold here. So they've got 3 main folds. So when my fingers go to close, they can fold there, they can fold there, or they can fold there. So there's 3 main places that the fingers will fold on. So what we would like to do is we want to, on our hands, also put 3 folds in. We want to have a fold up near the top, maybe 2 centimeters down. Then we come down another 2 or 3 centimeters. Then we're going to come down a little bit further. And what you might find is, if your fingers are joined here, a little bit close together, you can actually put an extra cut in that goes a little bit further down so that you can fold your fingers down correctly. Now, one trick you could also do is you could lay your hand on the piece like this, and you could put a little mark roughly where you think the folds are. So we might have, and I'm going to move my finger right to the edge of the page, and I'm going to put, I think there's a fold there, there's a fold there, and there's a fold there. So that's roughly where I think my folds are. And you could do that on each of your fingers if you would like to, or you can just say, all right, that's about the same distance as that one. We'll put a fold there, we'll put a fold there, and I've cut down a little bit deeper here, so I'm going to put my next fold right down here. And then my next one, I'm going to say 1 fold there, 1 fold there, and then 1 fold down a little bit deeper, and the same for this finger. 1 fold there, 1 fold there, 1 fold a little bit down deeper. Now your thumb folds in 2 main places. So your thumb folds here and here. So we're only going to do 2 folds on the thumb. Now the thumb, I'm going to put it right up to the top of the card. I'm going to put 1 fold there, and then 1 a little bit deeper down here. And you can see I don't have a cut down there to get to this fold. So I'm going to get my scissors and I'm going to cut a little bit deeper down there so that now when my thumb goes to fold, it actually can fold the right way. Okay, so we have our hand and we've put little marks of where we want the folds to be. Now there's 2 ways you could do this. You could have a look with your eye and run your finger over it and try and do that. Or you could get your ruler, lay your ruler over the hand, and then you could make your first fold and you fold the finger up. Now you don't want to fold it and bend it and fold it and bend it. Just do 1 little fold like that, and then you can push it flat again. And then on the next one, we do the same, 1 little fold, and then we can push it flat again. And then on the third mark, we're going to do one little fold, and then we're going to push it flat again. And what we're going to do is once we've got the fingers folded, we're going to glue a piece of string or wire along here. And as you pull the string, it'll cause the hand to come up like this. That's the way that it's going to work. So we want to make sure that we've pre-folded in these three positions. So I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to make my next folds. I always like to start at the top of the finger and work my way down with the folds so that we've got three going that way. So now we've got three folds there. I'm going to do that with each of them. And then we're going to move on to attaching our straw. Now the straw is a tricky key little piece to this that we're going to do next. It only takes you a second to do these folds, so I'm going to do them very quickly. There we go, good. And then two folds for the thumb, one for there and one for down here. Okay, so there's my hand and I've got it pretty much ready to go. And you can see the fingers fold at the right spots, similar to a human hand, folds the same way. So that's going to be good. We can lay it flat again and it'll remember, the cardboard will remember where those folds are now that you've done them. You don't have to worry too much, it'll remember where it is. Now, the idea is that we're going to get a piece of string and we're going to attach our piece of string. I know this is hard to see, it's fishing wire. We're going to attach our piece of string, and as we pull the string, the finger's going to turn. But the string can go anywhere, it's floating around. So we want to guide it in the right direction. So the next step will be adding a piece of straw to guide our string. Okay, at this stage, I've turned on my hot glue gun to warm it up. Now remember, you don't have to use a hot glue gun. You could use a little bit of tape and tape these pieces of straw on. And what we're going to do now is we're going to add the straw. So I just went to my local store and I asked for an extra straw when I bought a drink. And so I've got my plastic straw and I'm going to just pull this out right now. So here we go. So here's my plastic straw. And what I want to do is I want to have about 2 or 3 centimeters of each straw, and I'm going to stick them along the bottom along here, and then I'm going to run my string from here through the plastic straw to keep the string close to the hand. Okay, and when you saw our first computer one, I'll show you a shot of it right now. You'll notice that I've put 3 or 4 sections of plastic straw in to guide it really carefully. You can add more straw if you want to, but for our first go and our first try, we're going to just use a little piece of straw. Okay, so here we are now, and I've got my plastic straw here, and I'm going to cut 5 sections, and I'm going to aim at about 3 centimeters each. Now again, this is a rough estimate. You don't have to get your tape measure out and measure it exactly. I'm going to just aim at about 3 or 4 centimeters for my pieces of straw. And of course, you need 5 of them because you have 5 fingers or 4 fingers and a thumb. So there we go, whoops. And there is my 5th one there. I'll just pick up my other one in a moment. And now I have my pieces of straw. Now what we're going to do with the pieces of straw is we're going to attach them all at about the same position, equal with the finger. So you can see this first piece of straw, it lines up pretty much with the first finger. And then the next one with the next finger. The next one will line up with the next finger, that one there. And remember, you've got to leave room for your thumb as well. So my 5th piece of straw, let's use this one, will be there so that we can line them all up, all 5 pieces right there. Now, the way that I'm going to do it is I'm going to get my hot glue gun. I'm going to lift up the straw. I'm going to put a dot of hot glue gun right there. Then I'm going to stick my straw on. Now, if you don't have a hot glue gun and you have some tape, you can just put a piece of tape over there and then tape that down. You can put one over the next one, 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 so that you'll have 5 little pieces of tape holding that into position. Okay, so I'm just putting a little dot of the glue from the hot glue gun on. Then I'm going to just lay my piece of straw over the top of it. nice and quickly so that it sticks. Okay, so I've stuck these two down and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the rest. Okay, remember you can just use a piece of tape if you want to use a piece of tape. So here we go, here's my third one. Lined up roughly with the middle finger. Looking good. Okay, so here we have my hand with my 5 pieces of straw already glued on. You can see they're already glued on, they're staying still, they're right where they should be, which is great. Some people will have tape over the top. And now I'm going to get my string. Now remember, I'm using fishing wire, which is going to be a little bit hard for you to see, but I've got a piece of fishing wire here, and I'm going to attach my fishing wire. Now I'm going to do the middle finger, I think, just so that, oh no, I might do my pointer finger. So I'm going to do this finger here so it's easy for you to see on the video right here. Now, if you're using tape, you lay your piece of string down and you tape across there and you tape it firmly so that that piece of string won't move. You could even tie a little knot in the end of your string or your fishing wire. You could tie a tiny little knot in that. I'm just going to do that now for myself. Putting a little knot in there, which makes it a little bit thicker. So I've just put a little knot in there. Let me just do that. There we go. So I'm going to lay, you might be able to see the shadow. I'm going to lay my fishing wire down on here, and I would tape it to the top of the finger here. That's the position where we need to tape it, is up there. Now, like I said, I'm using a hot glue gun, so I'm going to get a little dob of glue, and I'm going to hot glue gun that right at the very end. Please be careful, get a parent to help you or a teacher to help you if you're using a hot glue gun, because I do not want you to get burnt. And you can see I'm going to leave that like that, and I'm going to let that dry like that. While that's drying, I'm going to get my second piece of string. I'm going to tie a little knot in the end of it at the top, just so that it's a little bit thicker. I'm going to either get a piece of tape or I'm going to get my hot glue gun and I will glue my next piece on there. So you can see I'm laying it right at the very top of the finger. I'm getting my hot glue gun and I'm shooting some glue down onto it, and I'm sticking that onto the next finger, okay? So that's the way we're going to do it. We're going to go through and do all 5 fingers. I've just done 2 here to show you, and that's how you're going to do it. You're going to do all 5 of your fingers, and then we need to leave it for a few minutes for it to dry. If yours is moving around like mine is a little bit here, you can try and lay it down and just make it go straight, or you can put another little piece of tape there just temporarily to hold this in the right direction so that the glue sticks and it goes very hard. Okay, so now you can see I've done 3 fingers here. I've attached my hot glue gun and I've glued a little bit over the wire. Here's my wire here. I've done the same for the middle finger and I've done the same for the third finger. Just for the purpose of this video, I've only done 3 to start with. Of course, you're going to do all 5 of them. Now, I'm going to get this string here, which is my first pointer finger. It's after the thumb, first pointer finger, so it's my second. I'm going to use this as my second piece of straw. I'm going to poke it through that. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to give it a little pull and test it, right? And you can see as I pull the string, as I'm pulling the string, you can see the finger is actually moving. So that's going to work. That's going to be a good way. Now, if the finger is not bending at all the right spots here, where you bent the cardboard, you could give it an extra little bend if you wanted to do that. And then when you pull it, you'll see the finger will bend right around. So that's one thing that you could do. Now, once we've got the finger and it looks like it's working, we're going to get the end of the string. Again, this is hard for you to see. You're going to get the end of the string and we're going to poke it through the straw all the way through until it comes out the other end. So there it is. I'm pulling that out the other end of the straw, so I can pull that out, make sure it doesn't tangle up with anything else, and we pull that out, and that's our first finger done. Now I'm going to do the next 2. I'll do them very quickly to show you. So I grab my piece of string, I line it up with the next finger hole, the next piece of straw, and I run that through there, and then there I have my second piece of string coming through there. Okay, so now I've got 2 going through. Now we get to the 3rd piece of string and we get to the 3rd hole, and I'm going to push that through, and there we go. We've got 3 coming through. Now, one good thing now, once you've got all 5 of yours done, is to try and test them through the straws, okay? So I'm pulling them all a little bit tighter so that they lay flat through the straws. You can see my strings here are all quite flat now, and I'll pull my first finger once. There we go. So that finger is moving and it's going through the straw, so I know it's going the right way. Now my next finger is moving, and now my 3rd finger is moving. So we can see we're already starting to get to a point where our robotic hand is correct. Now, for those students who are a little bit older, they're in year 7 or year 8, or it could be in any year level if your teacher's teaching you, but normally computer science students a little bit older, next step would be to get what's called a servo. And these are very inexpensive. You can buy these off the internet, or your computer science teacher will be able to help you buy one of these. And this is a little servo. And what this does is you hook this up to a battery or a computer. And what you do is when you give it power, it makes this little thing turn around. It goes forward and backward and forward and backward. And you get a little fin like this, and you put it on there and you attach your wire to there, so that when it turns one way, which will make your fist close, and then the other way, which will make your fist go open again. But again, that's for someone a little bit higher, year 7 or 8 or above. That's one thing that you could do. But for our primary students, what we can do is we could pull all 3 wires, and we see 3 fingers are working. We could get our piece of wire here. We put a big loop in the end of it. So I'm putting a big loop in it, and then I'm tying a little knot after I've done the big loop. So I've put a big loop in, big enough for my finger to go in, and then I'm tying a little knot next to it here. Now, again, you might need to get your teacher to help you tie the knot here. And all I'm doing is tying a little knot in the end of the string here. Just let me do this, and then I'll show you why we're doing this. Okay, so here we are back, and I have made 3 loops. You can see there's my first loop, and I've tied that on to the first finger. And then here's my next loop. It's going through the straw, and it's tied on to the second one, and then the 3rd one is there. Now, the beauty of this is when you tie the loop and put it here, it means your string won't go back either through your straw. Plus, it means I can then attach it to my fingers, which I'm going to do now. I'm just going to push that one up onto there. I'll push my second one up into here, and then I'll push my 3rd one to here. Now I can try my hand, right? So if I move my middle finger only, there you go, the middle finger's moving. If I pull my first finger's moving. If I pull my 3rd finger, my 3rd finger's moving. And if I pull all 3, I can make like a Spider-Man hand, like a fist like that. And you're going to do that with all 5 of your fingers. Now you'll notice on my first finger here, it's not bending as much as I want it to. So I'm just going to go back and I'm just going to check my folds here, give it a little bit more of a fold there. And now when I do it, it actually can fold a little bit more the way that I want it to. Okay, so that's the start of our robotic hand. That's the way that you make a robotic hand without spending millions of dollars on all of the technology. You can do it in class, and you can make this robotic hand right here. Like I said, for the computer science students, you take this to the next step. You attach servos along the bottom here, and then you attach these off onto a computer or a Raspberry Pi, and you get the servo turning the fingers, which will pull the fingers. Obviously, then that goes to the next step where you get a 3D printer and you print a molded 3D plastic hand with your 3D printer, and then you attach the wires through the molded hand, and you can actually make a plastic hand that moves back and forward. And they're the steps that you take to becoming a robotic genius.